Good evening, students. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Uh, so today's class will be starting with the term 2 portion. That is the next chapter. So instead of saying term 2, I would rather say the next chapter of physics. We have completed the first 7 chapters, right? So there is some connection there. I'll come to that just a minute. I'm just creating the document. Yeah. Shall we get started?
Yes.
Before we get into the context of this chapter, I need to introduce you to some, or rather I would say we need to recollect certain basics from the previous topics. The first thing is, can you tell me the name of the chapters that you have dealt from the beginning? Along with the objectives, chapter 1, what did we discuss? We discussed about the electric charges and fields. So we discussed about the electric charges and fields. Okay, that is the name of the chapter. But what was our main context or main interest of study in that chapter?
Force between two things.
Okay, force is there. Anything else?
Gauss law.
We mainly discussed about the fields. Right? What field did we discuss about?
Electric.
So we discussed about the electric field, correct? Now, if I put a question like this, what is the source of an electric field?
Electric charge.
So the charges, generally the charge, it can be at rest or it can be in motion. It is going to give rise to what? Electric field. Means if there is a charge existing in nature, then around that you can say definitely there is a region of electric field. Okay. Chapter 2, what did we deal with? We dealt with electrostatic potential. In electrostatic potential, what was our main interest of study? We were concentrating on how electric field and electrostatic potential can be related to each other. Correct? So E is equal to minus dV by dr. All those things we saw, and we saw a concept called as capacitance. Then what did we do in chapter 3? We dealt about the motion of charges. Then what was chapter 4 all about?
How moving charges produce magnetism.
So moving charges and magnetism means we understood that if the charges were put into a proper motion, then you can generate a region of what? You can generate a region of magnetic field. Right? You can generate a region of magnetic field is what is the question. So what is the name of this chapter is what we need to think of. Similarly, we had chapter 5, 6, 7, all those things. Now we are in chapter 8. So what are we going to deal in chapter 8? It's called as electromagnetic waves. Right. So chapter 1, we were dealing with electric field. Chapter 4, we were dealing with magnetic field. And in this chapter, we will deal with both electric and magnetic fields, which are treated in the form of waves. So what do we mean by waves here? So waves are basically disturbances which can carry energy from one point to another. Correct? So the main objective of an electromagnetic wave is to carry the energy from one point to another. So in this chapter, we are going to discuss about the combined electric and magnetic fields, along with which they are at time varying values. Means if the electric field and the magnetic field are varying with respect to time, then that is what we call it as electromagnetic wave. So one thing I want you to be clear is the source. So what is the source of an electric field? It is the charges which are present. What is the source for magnetic field? The charges in motion. So here, what are we supposed to do? You need to have charge and you need to put the charge into motion. If these two things are happening simultaneously, then you will be able to achieve a wave called as an electromagnetic wave. So this electromagnetic wave is not something new to you guys. Okay. If you recollect the concept of atomic structure from last year, okay, if you recollect the concept of atomic structure from last year, if there is 1 minute, wait, I don't know why. If there is an electron in a higher orbit, n is equal to 2, and if it is jumping to an orbit which is n is equal to 1, yeah. So if there is an electron jumping from a higher orbit to a lower orbit, according to Bohr's theory, you would have learned something. What is it? There will be a release of energy taking place. Am I right or wrong? So there will be a release of energy taking place, and that energy will be in the form of electromagnetic waves. So based on which region of the electromagnetic spectrum that electromagnetic wave belongs to, there are different kinds of series you would have learned. Lyman series, Balmer series, Paschen series. Yes or no? Have you heard something like this?
Yes, sir.
Right? So all those energies that are released are called as electromagnetic waves. So this chapter we are going to understand the basic of what is electromagnetic wave. The reason why the chapter is placed exactly here is because we have a prerequisite which is required for this chapter from the past, that is from the concept of electric and magnetic field. Similarly, on the right hand side, that is chapter 9 is light, and light is also a form of electromagnetic wave. So for you to understand the concept of light better, you need to know the basics of what are electromagnetic waves. Before that, I'm going to revisit the concept of what a wave means, and then I will go into electromagnetic waves. So basically, what does a wave mean, guys? What is a wave? Wave is basically a disturbance. And what will the disturbance do? The disturbance will be carry energy from one point to another, right? So if I talk about a wave, wave is a disturbance used to carry energy from one point to and other. Accepted. Now, this wave can be classified into different types. What are the different types into which you classify it? So when I say classification, there should be some basis on which this classification happens. Right? Any idea of what is the classification that takes place? So based on whether a medium is required for propagation, waves are classified into two types. What are they? One is called as mechanical and the other is called as non-mechanical. So mechanical requires medium, does not require a medium. Correct? So mechanical waves require a medium, non-mechanical waves do not require any medium. That is what they say, right? So what are the examples of mechanical waves?
Sound wave.
Very good. Then you can think of water ripples. Then what are the examples of non-mechanical waves?
Only electromagnetic wave, right?
You can think of electromagnetic waves, or you can call it as, best example is visible light. But visible light is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. I hope you know this, right? Which has a nanometer, which has a wavelength between 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. That with your concept and all you would have learned. Right? I hope it is clear. So this is one way of classification, guys. Similarly, waves can also be classified based on the direction of vibration and the direction of propagation. What are they called as?
Longitudinal.
Correct. They can be classified as transverse and longitudinal. So what do you mean by transverse waves? So transverse waves are the ones in which direction of vibration and direction of propagation are perpendicular to each other. So transverse basically means perpendicular. Don't get confused between transverse and transversal in mathematics. No. Transverse is a physics term. Transverse in physics means perpendicular. Have that in your mind. Then what is a longitudinal wave?
Parallel.
Yes. Direction of vibration and direction of propagation. So DOV stands for direction of vibration waves. DOP stands for direction of propagation. Have this in your mind. If they both are in the same direction, then that is what we call it as
Longitude.
a longitudinal. Correct. So example of transverse wave. String of musical instruments. Then after string of musical instruments, then you have light or electromagnetic waves. So these are also transverse in nature. So how can you call an electromagnetic? How do you categorize electromagnetic waves as? They are non-mechanical transverse waves. Clear? Non-mechanical transverse waves are these electromagnetic waves. Then what are these longitudinal waves, guys?
Sound.
Perfect. So sound is a mechanical longitudinal wave. Okay. So this is all about the introduction to waves. Is there any doubt till this point?
Yes.
Clear? That's good. Okay. Now I'm going to show you how an electromagnetic wave is going to look like. So observe this, no? What is that you're able to observe in this GIF? I'm just giving you a minute time. You people observe and tell me what are all the things you are able to observe. What are the two things you are able to see?
Electric field and magnetic.
You have both electric
Parallel.
field and
Perpendicular
magnetic
to each
field.
other.
Yes. Electric field and
Perpendicular to
magnetic.
each other.
Perfect. They are perpendicular to each other. Along with that, they are satisfying something else also. Is that electric field and magnetic field stationary or are they moving?
Moving.
Moving, right? The amplitude is changing from place to place. It is traveling in the form of a wave. So in which direction are both the fields traveling?
Positive X.
Perfect. So electric field vibration is taking place along which direction?
Y.
Y direction. And magnetic field is confined to,
Z.
and the propagation is confined to
X. Positive.
So if electric field and magnetic field are mutually perpendicular to each other along with the direction of propagation, can I call it as a transverse wave in the first place?
Yes, sir.
Right? So one more observation I'm able to see here is that the value of electric field and the magnetic field are changing with respect to time. They are time variant values. So if I'm able to talk about a time varying electric and magnetic fields which are propagating mutually perpendicular to each other, then I will call that as an electromagnetic wave. Are you guys able to understand? So let me copy this and paste it here. So electric field is along y direction, magnetic field is along z direction, propagation is along positive x direction. It can be along negative x also. But for it to be called as a transverse wave, the propagation should not be either in the direction of electric field or magnetic field. Electric field and magnetic field should be perpendicular to each other, and the direction of propagation should be mutually perpendicular to both these electric and magnetic fields. Means, to put it in simple terms, all the three should be in three different directions. Okay, if this kind of a time varying signal is present, that is what we call it as an electromagnetic wave, and that is what we are going to start with. So a changing. Okay, so what actually happens is, if you are able to change the electric field with respect to time, then the changing electric field will give rise to whom? Will give rise to a changing magnetic field. This is known to us because, see, if I take a conductor, then the conductor is connected to the positive and the negative terminal. What will happen to these electrons? These electrons tend to move in a particular direction. Correct? They tend to move in a particular direction. Accepted? And why is it happening? It is because of the presence of electric field within the conductor. So this electric field is a constant value as long as the potential source that you have connected is a constant value. What if, so since it is constant value, the current that is flowing through this conductor is also a constant value. Means it's a steady state current. Accepted? What if this electric field was changed with respect to time? That's what we need to answer. See, listen to this concept base. There's a critical one. Listen to this carefully. So constant electric field is producing steady state current. The steady state current can produce a magnetic field around it, which is a constant value, correct? Which is a constant value at a given point. It's a constant value at a given point. Now comes an important question. What if I have the feasibility to change this electric field, to make it a time-varying electric field? This time-varying electric field would have generated time-varying electric current. The time-varying electric current would have produced the time-varying magnetic field. Does it make sense? So though it's a small statement, it has a lot of meaning in it. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? Guys, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Changing electric field gives rise to a changing magnetic field, and vice versa. What does it mean? If you have
Then magnetic field will give rise to.
Yes, changing magnetic field will give rise to changing electric field according to Faraday's law. Okay, if this kind of a process is able to happen simultaneously, then this process will give rise to a transverse non-mechanical wave, which is called as an electromagnetic wave. Now, did you guys understand the definition of it? See, though these statements are very simple, the reason why I'm stressing this much is because from this chapter, it is mostly theoretical, first point. Secondly, from this chapter, what can happen is they can ask you most of the assertion reason based questions. I mean, if they have to ask you only assertion reason. At that time, you should have clarity of concepts. Clear? Now, the time varying, this is a very important word, guys. The time varying electric and magnetic fields are mutually perpendicular to each other, and they are perpendicular to the direction of propagation also. Okay. Clear? Now, the next concept that we are supposed to understand is, what is the source of an electromagnetic wave? What is the source of an electromagnetic wave? So electromagnetic waves are generated by electrically charged particles put into oscillations, or you can also say accelerated charged particle. The answer is very simple to it. The answer to this is very, very simple. Think about it. Okay, I'm putting a question like this. If there is a charge at rest, okay, if there is a stationary charge, what does it give rise to?
Electric field.
it gives rise to, so you use more specific words. It gives rise to a constant electric,
Yes, yes.
right? So if the same charge particle is put into a motion with a constant velocity, then there is a possibility that it could have generated magnetic field also, but that magnetic field will also be a constant one. But for an electromagnetic wave to get generated, along with the satisfaction of electric field and magnetic field being perpendicular to each other, what other condition are they supposed to satisfy? They should be
It should not be constant.
Yes, they should be a time varying ones. Means their magnitude should keep changing with respect to time. Correct? If that should happen, then you need a charge particle, but the charge particle should be ensured that it is accelerated. Okay, this might be a 1 mark question. Generally, they have asked this many times. What is the source of an electromagnetic wave? Answer is very simple. It's a charged, it's an accelerated charge particle, or the other way is a charge particle which is put into oscillations. Both are same. Are you able to understand? Right? So listen to this. So the electric field associated with the accelerating charge vibrates, which generates vibrating magnetic field. So this is what happens when this electric field, see, when the charge particle is in vibration. Okay, when the charge particle is itself is in vibration, we know that there is some intensity of this charge particle present at every location. What do I mean by intensity? Its effect, right? So if I have a source particle, source charge here, if I place a test charge here, guys, Q0, okay, try to think about this. Now, what will be the effect of this Q on this Q0? There will be some effect, right? Now, imagine if this particle is pushed slower, is pushed closer to this test charge, what would have happened? Will its impact increase or decrease?
Increase.
Increase, because it is taken closer. The source charge is taken closer to a test charge. The test charge will experience more amount of attraction or repulsion, whatever it is. If it is taken even more close, yes, it will experience. But what if this particle, the charge particle, is continuously put into vibration? Then the effect will also keep vibrating. Means during the process of vibration, the source charge is moving closer to the test charge, the effect will be more. When the source charge is moving away from the test charge, the effect will be less. As a result of which, can I say that there is a time varying electric field that is going to get generated at this particular location? Right. When this is going to happen, can I say it will give rise to a time varying or a varying or an oscillating magnetic field?
Yes.
Right?
So one doubt.
Please, sir. Please.
So you say it moves. So you say that if the particles oscillate, then it gives electromagnetic waves, right? So does alternating current produce electromagnetic waves? Because even there, the charges oscillate here and there.
Yeah, it will generate. It will generate an electromagnetic wave, but what will happen is the value will not be high, because what is the frequency with which it is oscillating? We learned it in the previous chapter. What is the frequency with which it is oscillating? Yeah? What is the frequency of the alternating current that we get at our house?
How is that?
50?
50
Remember,
hertz.
it is 50 hertz. No, but if you look at an electromagnetic wave, generally their frequency is in terms of megahertz. Now you think, will it be able to generate?
No.
It has the scope to generate, but you cannot call it as an. It will not be there. Where you cannot feel its presence. See, had that much amount of waves got generated, right? Then what would have happened is more amount of energy would have got generated at our house itself. So we don't need these electric towers and all those things which are used for mobile phones. We can generate it from our house itself. You're able to understand? But that kind of a thing happens. No, it is not advisable for human beings to live there. You would have heard this, right? Radiations are not very good.
Yes.
Right? So that's why it doesn't happen. Okay. So, what were we discussing? Yes. So the accelerating charge particle, that is, you take a charge particle and put it into oscillation or See, did you guys think about it? I'm using the word oscillation or acceleration. Are you guys able to relate what I'm trying to say? So I want to ask you a question. If a charged particle is put into oscillation, does that particle accelerate? Are these two statements connected? I repeat the question, listen to it carefully. I have a particle, forget about a charged particle. I have a particle, I have a stone in my hand. Okay, I have a vibrator or a machine which can vibrate. Okay, I keep that stone in that vibrator, okay, or a frequency generator, whatever you call it. Does that stone have acceleration associated with it? Now, you would have learned about simple harmonic motion last year. Right? When you talk about SH, can I say that the particles are oscillating? Obviously, right? Simple harmonic motion is where the particles are oscillating. So, if I take the displacement of the particle to be x, at some instant when the particle is at point P, can I say that the acceleration is minus omega square x? Have you seen this kind of an equation?
Yes.
Right. So every oscillating particle will have an acceleration associated with it. That is the reason why an oscillatory charged particle or accelerated charged particle means the same. So if suppose they give you in 1 mark question in MCQ, obviously you have 1 mark only. If they give it an MCQ or something, then what is it you need to understand? You should not get confused between oscillatory and accelerated. They both mean the same. Suppose you don't see the word accelerated, they use only the word oscillatory, you should still choose that option. Okay. One important point we discussed. Next is, see, there are 3 states of motion that we can always think of. One is the rest, one is uniform motion, that is constant velocity, and third is accelerated motion. So whatever I told you till now is written in this statement. Let me read it out for your sake. So if generally there is a charged particle at rest, electric field will get generated, no doubt about it, but the electric field that is associated with the charge will also be static, means it's going to be a constant value. So there will be no generation of electromagnetic waves as electric field is not varying with respect to time. So this charged particle at rest is eliminated. Secondly, when the charged particle is moving, but if it is moving with a uniform velocity, then we can say that the acceleration is 0. So when the acceleration is 0, the change in electric field with time will also be a constant. So change in electric field with time is also going to be a constant. As a result of which, what will happen is there will be no electromagnetic wave that will get generated. So the only option that is left out is you can either keep the particle at rest nor in motion, but you need to put it under acceleration. Hence, it's clear that only accelerated charged particles can generate electromagnetic waves. Okay. So whatever I told you will get repeated again and again. An oscillating charged particle will have oscillating electric field, which gives rise to oscillating magnetic field. Similarly, the vice versa. Oscillating magnetic field in turn gives rise to oscillating electric field, and so on. The process continues. Regeneration of these time-varying electric and magnetic fields are same as propagation of the wave, and this wave is known as electromagnetic wave. One important point to be noted is the frequency which the electromagnetic wave is going to get attained, or the frequency that the electromagnetic wave will attain is equal to the frequency with which the charged particle is oscillating. So this is an important point that you need to make a note of. I repeat it. Frequency of the electromagnetic waves is exactly equal to the frequency of the oscillating particle. That is why I told alternating currents will not be able to generate EM waves. So please make a note of this point. Suppose you want to generate a 500 megahertz frequency. Then the charged particle should be ensured that it vibrates with a frequency of 500 megahertz. Right? So next is, what are the nature of these electromagnetic waves? So first thing, electromagnetic waves are transverse waves. So what are transverse waves? Transverse waves are those in which the direction of disturbance or displacement in the medium is perpendicular to the propagation of wave. Second point. Third, in case if the electromagnetic wave is propagating along the x direction, electric and magnetic fields should be perpendicular to the wave propagation. That is, if the wave propagation is along x-axis and electric field is along y-axis, then magnetic field should be along z-axis. And because of this only, what we are going to see, electromagnetic waves are transverse in nature. Now comes an important question. Since these waves are propagating, they can also be called as they can also be called as traveling waves. Okay. They can also be called as traveling waves because they are propagating. So equation of electric and magnetic field from the idea derived from last year's wave concept. There is a formula like this. I don't know how many of you remember. There is a formula like this. Y is equal to a sine of kx minus omega t, where k is called as the amplitude, k is called as the propagation constant, omega is called as the angular frequency, x is called as the displacement, and t is called as the time, and y is called as the displacement of the particle in the y direction. Means the particle will vibrate along y direction and it will propagate, the energy will propagate along x direction. Are you able to understand what I'm trying to say? You guys remember this equation, by the way? This is the equation of a traveling wave. Guys, are you there or not?
Yes.
No, listen. So now we are going to see the equation of electric field and magnetic field. Suppose the electric field is moving along y direction and the wave is propagating along x direction. Then Ey can be written as E naught into sine of kx minus omega t, where k is 2 pi by lambda, which is called as the angular wave number or propagation constant. Both mean the same. Please make a note of it. So electric field is along y direction. So Ey will be equal to E naught into sine of kx minus omega t. Okay, where electric field is in y direction and the electromagnetic wave is moving along the x direction. Okay, here the negative sign indicates that the wave is propagating along the positive x direction. Similarly, if electric field is along y direction and propagation is along x direction, what should be the direction of magnetic field?
Z.
It should be along z direction. So Bz will be equal to B naught into sine of kx minus omega t. Where the magnetic field is along the z direction, electromagnetic wave is moving along the x direction. Am I clear till this point? Okay. So K is written as 2 pi by lambda. I hope you guys are making a note of all these points. You can get questions from this concept also. So K is called as 2 pi by lambda and omega is called as 2 pi by t or 2 pi into f. Okay. Now, if you divide omega by k, omega is divided by k, this will become 2 pi by capital T divided by 2 pi by lambda. 2 pi will get cancelled. It will be lambda divided by capital T. So what is lambda divided by capital T called as? It is called as the speed of the wave. So sometimes they will give you the equation of the electromagnetic wave and ask you to calculate the speed of the wave. What are you supposed to do? Find the value of omega and k from the equation, divide both, you'll get the answer. Okay. So
Yes.
one last concept that I'm going to discuss is, see, because there are too many equations and theory part, I don't want to rush. Yeah, I'll go slowly on it, don't worry about it. So speed of an electromagnetic wave. We know that what is mu naught by 4 pi? It is a constant that is introduced. Mu naught is permeability. Mu naught by 4 pi is a constant which is introduced in Bayes and all those things, right? So mu naught by 4 pi takes a value of 10 power minus 7. And 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is introduced in the concept of Coulomb's law. So mu naught by 4 pi is related to magnetism. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is related to electric field. So that is 9 into 10 power 9. I have not written the units. Now what will happen is mu naught by 4 pi and 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, if you divide both. So mu naught by 4 pi divided by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. 4 pi will get cancelled. What will you get? 10 power minus 7 divided by 9 into 10 power 9. So mu naught into epsilon naught is equal to 1 by 9 into 10 power 16. Then 1 by mu naught into epsilon naught will be equal to 9 into 10 power 16. I don't know if there is some problem with my device. 1 by mu naught into epsilon naught is 9 into 10 power 16. If you take square root on both sides, 1 by mu naught into epsilon naught will give you 3 into 10 power 8. What does this 3 into 10 power 8 mean? It is a value which already know. It is the speed of the light in vacuum. So going forward, you should remember that 1 by root of mu naught into epsilon naught is equal to 3 into 10 power 8, which is nothing but the speed of light. Okay, please make a note of this point. Okay. C is equal to E by B. This can also be derived. So if you divide the magnitude of electric field to the magnitude of, if you divide the electric field with the magnitude of magnetic field, that will also give you the speed of light. You would have seen this kind of an expression somewhere. You remember where? V is equal to E by B.
Magnetic field intense.
So it is velocity selector. Right? You would have seen it in velocity selector. So C is equal to E by B. This can be derived from the equations of electric field and magnetic fields also. Where here C represents what? The speed of light only. So clear, guys. So this is all about the introduction of electromagnetic waves. Maximum by tomorrow itself will complete this chapter. It's a very, very small chapter. Okay, next is only about energy. See, only these many pages, or 3 more pages. That's it. We are done. Maximum by tomorrow we can complete. Okay. So I want you all to revise these things before coming to tomorrow's class. I don't want to rush and make sure that it is completed today itself. It will take some time. There is no hurry. But in the meanwhile, is there any other concept that you have doubt from today's class? Is everything clear? Right. So
Yes, sir.
I suggest you all to go through the textbook alone before coming to tomorrow's class. Okay. So keep revising. So that's it from my side for today. We'll wind up class.
Thank you, sir.
You guys can-
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.